This episode was suggested by Henry Banker. Thank you, Henry. And don't forget to subscribe. Please enjoy.
You have to be aware of your surroundings. You just never know.
It started with a frightening horror flick from the 80s.
The premise of the movie is we're going to take some women into the woods and then poof, they're going to be hunted down.
Then, decades later, something truly frightening. It was happening for real. A strange vanishing in the forest.
Immediately, we knew something was wrong.
Then,
your heart just broke.
Cheryl, then Meredith. Two women missing and two desperate efforts to find them.
She could be alive, and we just can't let up.
Could this old movie hold the key to these new cases?
A little blood, a little sex, a little violence.
A film fantasy turns chilling reality.
If someone had her, she's afraid.
Who could be behind this? And how would this real-life story end?
She was built in Judah. If anybody could survive it, it was Meredith. If anybody could fight, it was Meredith.
Hello and welcome to Dateline on ID. I'm Lester Holt. This is a puzzling case centered in the national forests. It's about what happened when a young hiker out with her dog vanished. As her loved ones kept vigil, police pressed on, ultimately uncovering a crime as winding and dark as the trails that snake through the woods. Here's Dennis Murphy.
Our national forests are places of refuge for folks that want to get away from the city and have a sense of peace, commune with nature. But you have to be aware of your surroundings all the time because you just never know.
The splendors of America's national parks and forest lands are poems just waiting to be written by each new visitor. From the cathedrals of the Rockies to the quiet glades and old growth of the Appalachians. It's here in the parks we have the promise of stepping out of the hubbub of our chattering daily routine. That was the kind of serenity Meredith Emerson saw on a crisp New Year's Day in the North Georgia mountains. Not more than foothills, really, for a young woman who loved to trail climb her native Rockies. It was 2008 as the young sales assistant set out from Buford, Georgia with her dog Ella. Her roomie, Julia Karenbauer from college days, had slept in that morning.
She had left me a note, just a little note on a chalkboard. Took Ella, went hiking. Not where, not when I'm going to be back. So it wasn't really anything, out of the ordinary.
Meredith, like roomie Julia, was a dog person. She doted on Ella, her black lab mix, since finding her at a rescue shelter.
She had two dogs growing up, and she wanted one of her own. And so she just kind of talked about it and researched what she wanted, and definitely wanted to rescue a dog. And finally found one, went out, loved her, brought her home, and it really was the light of her life.
Julia, the roommate, didn't know that Meredith and Ella were heading 40 miles north to Blood Mountain in the Chattahoochee National Forest. Despite the creepy teen slasher movie name, Blood Mountain is one of the most popular places to hike in the southeast. The famous Appalachian Trail to Maine takes off from just south of here. Back in Buford, the roommate spent her New Year's Day with friends and did notice that Meredith hadn't come home until the next morning, a back-to-work day.
She would leave Ella in my room, and I would take care of her in the morning. And I'm like, oh, Ella's not here. That was a little strange to me, and I called her cell phone and I went straight to voicemail and kind of thought maybe she was at work.
When did you become anxious, Julia?
When I got to work. She worked with a good friend of ours, and the friend called me and said Meredith didn't show up for work, and Meredith was always at work. She was the first one at work.
Reliable Meredith wasn't where she was supposed to be. Julia called the sheriff's office. Then she and some of Meredith's other friends assembled a search party. Maybe she'd twisted her ankle hiking and taken a tumble. They started with that note on the chalkboard.
Do you know where I'm going hiking would naturally be?
We had a few ideas. We took some books that she had and some places that she highlighted and kind of just started driving.
The friends split up, looking for Meredith's car at trailheads she'd marked in her hiking guides.
There was 4 of us in the car. We were trying to call park rangers and anybody that may have seen her or her car. And then a friend of hers found her car, called us and said, I found it, and there was snow on it.
The car was in a parking area at the base of Blood Mountain.
And we drove as fast as we could there and just knew, just that sinking feeling when you first see it.
The friends raced up the Blood Mountain feeder path to the Appalachian Trail, but no trace of Meredith or Ella. So by nightfall, the search became all the more urgent as a cold front moved in, and temperatures on Blood Mountain plunged below zero. At daybreak, Thursday now, the friends were joined by deputies from the local sheriff's office. John Cagle, just shy of retirement, was the agent in charge for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the state's top cops.
We received a request from a local agency to help with a missing hiker.
The case of the hiker missing for 2 days didn't look good to the seasoned detective because of some disturbing items that had been recovered on the trail.
What were the things that were found out in that trail area that you thought were alarming?
A couple of water bottles, a dog leash, and a police expandable baton.
This is a piece of professional gear.
It is. It's just a metal pipe that is expandable. You see almost every uniformed police officer in the nation carrying these things.
Did those artifacts, the water bottle, the baton, found together, tell you a story at all or suggest something ominous?
Yes. When we found those items in an area where the ground had appeared to have been disturbed, then we became concerned that possibly a struggle took place there.
Meredith's water bottles, Ella's leash, and signs of a struggle. Nothing about the scene looked good to the veteran lawman, especially that expandable police baton that was found. He called in help.
We've eventually partnered with over 18 or 19 police agencies to help for the search for Meredith.
Her friends were naturally beside themselves.
Your heart just broke because you think something happened, somebody had a weapon, and her stuff was there.
So you're thinking at the very least she's been abducted?
Yep, and it was so hard because it wasn't something that we could talk about until we could actually prove that.
The cops commandeered a park building as headquarters.
We began getting information pretty quickly.
From people who had hiked the trails that day?
Right.
Remembered her,
and we began to get disturbing news of a strange-looking individual with Meredith, who also had a dog.
Thumbnail description, this other person, what were you hearing?
Strange-looking, just a wiry kind of guy.
Older guy?
Older guy. We even developed a vehicle description, a white van.
The lead on the van came from this photo taken by a hiker in the Blood Mountain parking lot the night before Meredith Emerson went missing. A be on the lookout advisory went out for the guy driving a white van accompanied by his reddish dog.
It is going to be a white male between the ages of 50 and 60 years old, approximately 160 pounds. It was described as he has bad dental. He had a dark reddish colored retriever.
We put out that information through the media in Atlanta and actually got a call from someone who said, I think I know who this is.
Coming up, this mysterious stranger would prove to be stranger than anyone expected.
I just turned white at one point. I felt the blood leave my face.
Meredith Emerson had not been the only one missing in the forest. When Mystery on Blood Mountain continues.